We heard you guys loud and clear. So many of you said, hey, I don't draft until July. I don't draft until August. All of these mock drafts are outdated by the time I actually go to draft. Well, we've got you covered here. We are going to be doing a 3 plus a little extra 3-round rookie Superflex mock draft right here today. I've got my good friends with me, Tristan Cook.
How's it going?
And Taylor Christensen.
Hey, good to be here, Garrett.
All right. So hopefully last time I did not mix up Taylor or Tristan. Both of their names, first name starts with T, last name starts with C. I inevitably say one of their names incorrectly very frequently. I did not do it once last video. We'll see if I do it today. But this is a Superflex tight end premium rookie mock draft. Somebody was kind enough to put Cam Skattebo in the 1-1 for me. So I think we're just going to stick with no. Ashton Jeanty is the guy. Nothing has changed as far as that goes. You could make arguments for other guys, but honestly, none of those arguments would make sense to me. I think it's clearly still Ashton Jeanty. I think he is far and away the best running back in this class, and he's going to have an opportunity from day one to be an absolute stud. So, Taylor, you are up with the 102.
With the 102, I think you got to take a swing at the other, I don't want to say generational talent, but the other guy in his own tier, and that would be Travis Hunter. So even though Omarion Hampton's still on the board, I'm going to go with the wide receiver, take Travis Hunter. I think he is a head above Tet McMillan and the rest. So that's who I'm going to take a swing on at 102.
Oh, I feel like he did that just to spite you, Tristan, because I felt like one of you was going to take him either way. Was that going to be your pick?
Oh, 100%. I was who I was going to take if he was there at 3. So it makes my decision easy. I'm going to take Hampton. By the way, Vegas has the over-under on name mess-ups at 2.5 for this show. So they're not confident in you.
They're not.
But yeah, I
feel good about that. I'll take the under.
Yeah, I mean, you smashed it last time, but we'll see. Maybe they're expecting some regression. But I'm taking Hampton. Like I liked Henderson more prior to the draft, but I think Hampton's situation, both in the short term, but especially in that offense in the long term, he makes it a pretty easy choice here at 3.
All right. Well, we have our first 3 picks off the board. Typically, what I've seen so far typically tends to be Hampton over Hunter, and Hunter floats somewhere between 3 to 5. But totally understand going Travis Hunter at 2 and then Omarion Hampton at 3. So for me, there's a couple players on the board that do make sense. I could be talked into any number of them, but I am probably going to stick with TreVeyon Henderson. Ward makes a lot of sense here. With it being Superflex, taking the quarterback, that's never a bad move. You could even argue, hey, I really believe in this guy. He was the 1-1 selection for a reason. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put him as the 102. And I would say, honestly, I have no problem with it. But right now, there's just enough that worries me about Ward where I just don't want to miss. And TreVeyon Henderson, I'm not going to say he's a sure thing. There's nothing that's a sure thing. And obviously, Ashton Jeanty is much closer to that than he is. But I still just feel really good about this player. So I'm going to take him at 1-4. So now 105. Taylor, you're up. Who are you taking?
I think 105 is the last position in a Superflex draft where I feel really confident in the asset that I'm getting. I think if it's either Henderson, like you mentioned, or in this case, it's going to be Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward, like you said, it is Superflex. He's the first overall NFL draft pick. That's as secure of, draft stock as you could possibly ask for, unless you're a guy who gets traded up for the 102 overall pick. I mean, Travis Hunter. So I think Cam Ward it's a smart pick. He's a lot of liquid assets out there still, but he's the kind of guy that I think you can put in your dynasty roster and start him, and he could grow into a much higher asset over the next 2 years.
Absolutely. All right, Tristan, that puts you on the clock here. Who you going with?
It makes the decision easy for me also. I'm taking Quinshon Judkins, which might be surprising,
Oh,
but I think that the difference between McMillan and some of the receivers that you can get a little later and Judkins and the running backs you can get a little later is very different. So I'm taking the positional scarcity option, even in a very deep running back class. I had Judkins in the tier with Henderson and Hampton, and so it's pretty simple for me. Let me take the running backs early. I'm sure I can find receivers slightly later in rookie drafts. No shade or problem with people that would have taken McMillan here. It's just from a like strategy perspective, I'm taking Judkins every time.
and I have no issue with that. I'm a big Quinshon fan. Really, really liked his tape. And you're right. I don't think he was crazy far off from a TreVeyon, from a Omarion Hampton. I had both of those guys ahead of him, pre-draft and post-draft. But I don't think that he was drastically far behind. But it is surprising to see T-Mac fall this far because I've seen him go as early as 103. So to see him fall all the way back to 107 definitely feels like a value to me. You get a player that's going to be force-fed targets. They really needed a true X receiver. I think Xavier Legette, good player, but not a true X receiver. They got that in Tetairoa McMillan. So he goes off the board at 1-7. And this tends to be, it can be different depending on the draft, but this tends to be where people kind of see this as a teardrop. You guys might feel a little bit differently in your drafts, but this is typically where we see that. So with the first pick of the potentially new tier, Taylor, who are you taking?
Is this a tight end premium Superflex?
Yep.
I think anytime there's a premium on the tight end position, this is where I go Tyler Warren. I have him ahead of Colston Loveland. I think that the Colts are going to find a way to use him early. He's their best offensive player, I think, even as a rookie, just the way that he can be used and the versatility that their offense can have with a guy like him in it now. I think they're going to try and use him. Maybe he's not asked to block hardly at all just to start out with. Maybe they just try to see what he can do all over the formation. We'll see what it all comes down to. But I feel really confident in taking Tyler Warren at this spot.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. There's really, for me, this does start a new tier. And, man, I could really be talked into a lot of different players in this tier. And Tyler Warren is definitely towards the top of that group for me. So Tyler Warren. Now, Tristan, on to you at 109.
Yeah, and again, even in tight end premium drafts, I said this in the last draft, I tend to punt on early tight ends. I get the like appeal with Warren and with Loveland. It's just I'd rather spend elsewhere at the position or than that position, excuse me. So my pick is Kaleb Johnson. I think a lot of people would take RJ Harvey. As a Broncos fan, it's hard. Like I like the idea of what Harvey can be, but I think that he has a bigger range of outcomes where I feel a little safer in Kaleb Johnson. He may not have quite the high ceiling, but if I can get 3 startable running backs in the first round of a draft like this, like sign me up for that every single day of the week. I don't need Kaleb Johnson to be, a top 6-8 running back year in year out. If I get a 12 to 16 running back with this pick, I'm thrilled. So I'll take Kaleb Johnson and be very happy with it.
Absolutely. Totally understand that one. A very, very talented player out of Iowa. So I went with Jaxson Dart. He was the only other first-round quarterback in this year's draft. And look, am I the biggest Jaxson Dart supporter? No. But I do think I saw enough on tape to say, hey, he can be an effective NFL quarterback if things go well. And he's got the athletic ability where we could see him be similar to a Drake May, where I think people were kind of sleeping on the athletic ability and the potential rushing upside of a player like that. I think that's kind of what you get with a Jaxson Dart as well. So definitely interested in him. And with it being the super flex model here, it just makes those quarterbacks hard to get. And the scarcity in this draft is absolutely real. Last year, we had 6 guys go in the first round. So we're taking first round quarterbacks at like 2-5. We do not have that luxury this year. So I'm going to go with Jaxson Dart at 110. Taylor, you are up.
This is a tough pick for me. I normally am not in a position at the end of the first round where I can choose between Colston Loveland and my next receiver, who's Emeka Egbuka. I really struggle, I guess, if I have to pick one or the other. This is a premium, and we have top 10 draft capital in Colston Loveland, so that's where I will lean. But I do think Egbuka makes a lot of sense here. There's a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago, but new regime, they're drafting Colston Loveland. It's their first pick they're making. If you've seen any sort of footage on that pick, Ben Johnson was thrilled. It seemed like guy was just genuinely stoked to be able to add him to his overall roster and start using him in the offense. So that's where I feel it's safe to make that pick. We've seen guys like Kyle Pitts hold value for a long time, even though they didn't perform at all. So I think there's safety in taking a guy that was drafted this high. And I expect him to do a lot more than what Kyle Pitts did. He's a more traditional tight end in what he can do and his receiving ability. So that's where I'm going to lean is a Colston Loveland here at 111.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right. That puts you on the clock. Tristan, who are you going to go with?
I'm going to take the next best running back that I think on all of our board, Just kidding. I'm not going to take him. I'm going to go with RJ Harvey. I mean, I considered him with my last pick. It was Kaleb Johnson for the reasons I mentioned. But for all of the upside that is RJ Harvey, I'm going to take him at 12 here. Again, like I think now there's a big tier fall off at running back. I know somebody else on this podcast thinks there's another guy that's closer to this range than I do. But either way, there's a lot of like promising receivers left. There's not a lot of promising running backs left. So for that reason, I'm going to lock up Harvey and then probably pivot to wide receivers in the second round of most of my rookie drafts.
I'm kind of shocked that Emeka Egbuka fell this far. For him to be available at 2-1 feels like absolute robbery, if I'm being honest. So I'm like running to the podium. If this is a real draft with my buddies, like I'm smashing the button so fast that I probably hurt my finger. This just feels like, honestly, I almost felt like I made the wrong pick at 110, not taking Emeka Egbuka there. And so I thought for sure he was going to be gone within these next 2 picks. So I am absolutely thrilled to be able to get him here. Taylor, obviously I know you would have taken him next. You were debating with your last 2 picks between Emeka Egbuka and this guy here, but have you guys actually had any? Because I don't know that I've actually had a draft, super flex tight end premium draft, or any draft really, where Emeka Egbuka has not been a first round pick.
I don't think I have. I think usually the players that fall into the early second are Jaxson Dart and RJ Harvey or Kaleb Johnson. Like those are the 3. And, I took 2 of those 3 and I would have taken Dart had you not, Garrett. So like I view all 3 of those guys a little higher. And so in a draft where I'm taking 1 out of every 3 picks,
Sure.
They're going to probably go a little higher. I don't dislike Egbuka at all. It's just, like I said, with the positional aspect of it, I'm going to take the running backs and probably push a few receivers that deserve to be first rounders down a little bit.
Absolutely. All right, Taylor, who are you going with?
Well, I definitely would have taken Egbuka. I think I would have ran up to the podium to trade for the 110 pick after Kaleb Johnson went, and I would.
Don't click yet. Don't click yet. Don't click. Just let me
I would have
talk
been
to you real
like
quick.
holding your arm back, like you. Oh my gosh, no. But honestly, I think that's if anyone can trade away a future first to just get Egbuka, I'm all about that. All right, so let's move on to the 202. I don't love the options on the board right now. I think a lot of people would be fine going wide receiver and feeling pretty good about it. I don't. I think to Tristan's earlier point, there's some positional scarcity that comes into play at this stage. And if I have another early second or a mid second, I can take a swing on one of these wide receivers where they might kind of finish the same as another. I think Cam Skattebo sticks out in the running back position. So I'm going to take him at 202. I think that's a fair spot for him in any draft. If you, for some reason, have a premium on, or you have a lowered tier, running back reception, maybe you would lean towards a wide receiver here. But I think Skattebo has a lot of upside. He's got a floor that I care about this early in the second round. I still want a guy who can probably hold some value into the middle of the season. And I think he'll have enough suitors out there that he'll be a hot name that someone like Garret Price might trade me a future second for him at any time.
Absolutely. All right.
I
Tristan,
flip-flopped
I know you're devastated
my
right
pick
now,
here.
right?
Yeah, I'm in shambles. I don't know what to do here. So in reality, my time probably expires and I get skipped. No, I get it. I'm not going to probably have Skattebo anywhere. I know I've talked about it a ton, but I think this is the range he generally goes. So yeah, no problem with it there. You just won't see me making it. I really struggled. 3 players here I wanted, all receivers. I ended up going with Matthew Golden, which I think is a little surprising to me. I think he's got the biggest boom potential, but also probably the biggest bust potential of the options I was looking at here. I'm not going to say which ones, although you guys are probably going to take him in the next 2 picks, so it won't matter too much. But I think the first round capital, the lack of a top proven option, and Green Bay makes me think that he could be like a very valuable asset here in the early second round. He could also end up kind of fizzling out, but I'd rather take a big swing here than go a little safer.
Well, and that's the thing for me. Once you get in the second round, especially, we're still in the early-ish part of the second, but I don't really care about floor anymore. I really don't, because you're already looking at below a 25% chance of these guys hitting anyway. So give me a guy that could blow up. And I think that's part of the reason I do like Skattebo as much as I do. And I think the same would fall into Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden has the opportunity to be the number 1 receiver on a team with a good quarterback, and that's traditionally been a good offense. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I have a harder time pulling the trigger in the first round on a guy like that, but in the second round, there's just so much upside that he's just way too good of a prospect, way too good of a pick to pass up. And similarly, I took a guy that was just missing that first round. I took Jayden Higgins here. I liked his tape a lot of bit. I guess that works. A lot of bit. I did. I thought his tape was good. I thought Jayden Noel on the same team was just as good. So I was kind of surprised to see the big gap in draft capital between the two, but they end up going to the same team. But he goes to learn from a guy like Nico Collins, who's a very similar player stylistically. So I think it's a good fit. This is an offense that needs receiving weapons, and so I think he could be a very effective wide receiver sooner rather than later. So Taylor, that puts you back on the clock with the 2-5.
Yeah, I guess I'll bite at this point and take a wide receiver. So I'll go with Jack Bech for the Raiders. I think you want to talk about someone who's got some upside. There's plenty of targets to go around once you get past Brock Bowers. I think that they're going to have to throw the ball to stay in games. They're probably going to be behind late with the way that defense is shaping up. We'll see what Pete Carroll actually decides to do as far as what he can manufacture in the run game and how that affects the passing game. But I think Bech could see one of those middle of the year emergences and carry into the end of the season where he's actually a usable wide receiver 3 flex play for you once he's kind of got the offense and everything and the role figured out. So I'm happy to take him this, I would say, late in the draft already, because like you said, Garret, you're going for the upside swing, and he could be their wide receiver 1 if things break his way.
Absolutely. I'm totally good with that pick. He's a player that I liked his tape, and so I think this is a fair range for him to go. And honestly, all three of these receivers tend to kind of get just mixed up and kind of put wherever. So Tristan, I know you were talking about two other guys. Were Bech and Higgins the two guys you were talking about, or is there another one that you were looking at?
No, those were the two. I think that those three players, including Golden, that I took, are the ones, like, they're very clearly in a tier for me. The guy I'm going to take here, I have hanging on to the bottom of that tier, and that's Luther Burden III. And albeit a lot of it has to do with his pre-2024 tape, where, we've seen it, but we haven't seen it in a while, and that's obviously risky. But as we've talked about a few times here, you're mostly going upside here. I think he has a relatively safe floor, but I think that the upside of Luther Burden III could be like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player in that same type of offense. It could also be where he's not very, utilized if he can't climb the depth chart, but I like taking a swing here.
Taylor is so mad at me right now. But he's taking Cam Skattebo in both drafts. I've taken Mason Taylor in both drafts. So, tit for tat. And honestly, I wasn't even trying to be that guy. I really do like Mason Taylor. I think he's a very talented player. Obviously has the great bloodlines. But this is the first year that I've fully done projections. I'm done with the AFC, midway through the NFC right now. And I think that even opened my eyes even more, that when I looked at where the targets were going to be going, I couldn't figure out where to put any other than Garrett Wilson. So I was like, I can't give him 200 targets. So where are the rest of these going to go? And Mason Taylor has just as good of a shot, if not better, than anybody else on this team. This very well could be and I don't say this lightly, this very well could be a Sam Laporta-esque type rookie season where we see a guy relatively come out of nowhere and just put up numbers, because somebody's got to catch the ball for Justin Fields on this team. So I ended up going with Mason Taylor, but I know Taylor is not thrilled at the moment.
Yeah, I would have, in a vacuum, I'll take him at 205 instead of Bech, but in this mock, I've been taking all the tight ends. So I guess I need to share a little bit. I need to share with you. So that works out fine. This is the point in the draft where I pretty much feel like a future second is worth more than whatever is left on the board for me. I'm going to take the biggest swing I can and go with Jalen Milroe. I think at this point in the draft, getting a quarterback, super flex, a guy who can run, even if he only sees limited action at the end of the season and he pops, maybe someone's willing to trade a first for him over the offseason, and you can make an immediate transactional benefit to your dynasty roster. So I think he's a decent investment to hold a second value, unless he comes out and completely falls on his face, or he gets someone else's drafted there next year with higher capital. But outside of those two things, I think he's a good swing in the second.
No, I think it's a solid range. I was tempted to take Tyler Shough. I ended up not, because I wanted to take one more swing at wide receiver with Kyle Williams. I think that, as Taylor said, this is kind of the, I don't know, pick your poison, get your guy range, where I don't really feel super confident in any of the picks, but I also feel like at any point in this range, I can get a guy that I can talk myself into liking. So it's kind of an odd spot to be, but I went with Kyle Williams. I just think that we know that he could become a PPR monster, and so in an offense that we expect to get better. So I'm happy to take him here, have one more stab at a early and high producing wide receiver.
No, I was hoping he would fall one more pick, because he was absolutely going to be my selection. I'm high on this Patriots offense, and I think he could be. I don't know that he's going to be their long-term wide receiver one, but I think he could be a very good contributor for a long time. So I ended up going with Shedeur here. This definitely feels like a risky pick, and we talked about it before. Shough more than likely is going to have the opportunity to start right away. He just does not strike me as a player that is going to be a long-term asset. And even if he is, what are we hoping for? Best case scenario, he's quarterback 14. I want to take somebody that I think has a chance to maybe be an upper echelon type of quarterback. And so it's a total shot in the dark. I could end up lighting this pick on fire. But at 210, I'm going to go with the upside. I'm going to go with Shedeur and Superflex. I think this is probably about the right range to go after him. So Taylor, you're on the clock.
Just scanning to make sure we haven't missed anything. And I think if we were in sleeper, there's a good chance that this name would have already been taken off the board because he would have been stuck at the top of the ADP for a little while. But I'm going to go with Tre Harris. I mean, the Chargers decided to go after another wide receiver. So someone's going to have to catch the ball from Justin Herbert. I think we've seen what QJ has. And I mean, his potential is capped. So they need to try and develop someone else. And we'll see if Harris can be that guy. But I think, I mean, he's if nothing else in that same tier as Kyle Williams. And if Luther Burden doesn't get on the field early in his rookie season, I could see their value being sort of the same throughout the year.
Absolutely. All right, Tristan, who are you going with?
Well, it made my decision easy. I mean, I considered Tyler Shough at my last pick, so he's my pick here. Interesting that, we saw 3 quarterbacks go off the board in, 5 picks?
Yeah.
So I think that, I don't know if you want to do like a quick round or 2-round recap before we get into the third, but
yeah,
all of what I said, like if you told me coming into this draft season that I could have the last pick in the second round be a quarterback that's probably going to start at least 6 to 8 games in his rookie year, like I think I could immediately trade him for a second round pick that's going to at no worse be the same as this pick, right? It's 212. So yeah. I'm going to get an immediate return if I want it. And if I hold on to him and he plays decently at all, I think the value goes up. I probably would be looking to trade him, with I'd hold enough to see him on the field because I think I could still get a second from anybody halfway through the season unless he just was, Nathan Peterman level of bad. I don't expect quite that, but I think that like it's the process here is if there's a starting quarterback available, you would be happy to get a 212 pick and make that swap. So he's my guy.
Absolutely. All right. First round, we had Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, Omarion Hampton, TreVeyon Henderson, Cam Ward, Quinshon Judkins, Tetairoa McMillan, Tyler Warren, Kaleb Johnson, Jaxson Dart, Colston Loveland, and then wrapping up with RJ Harvey. Round 2, we had Emeka Egbuka, Cam Skattebo, Matthew Golden, Jayden Higgins, Jack Bech, Luther Burden, Mason Taylor, Jalen Milroe, Kyle Williams, Shedeur Sanders, Tre Harris, and Tyler Shough. So we are going to do officially one more round, but we'll mention a few guys at the very end that we would have also considered taking at the end of the third or the early part of the fourth round. So I'm up. I've got the first pick of the third round. Oh, man. It really is truly kind of just take your guy season now at this point. I'm going to go back to the tight end well. And I'm struggling between 2 guys. I feel like the right pick is probably Terrance Ferguson, but I really liked Elijah Arroyo. I think he did a lot of things on tape that scream potential, and that's what I want. I just need him to stay healthy. That's really what I'm concerned about. It's not the ability. It's not the talent. It's can this guy stay healthy? If he can, I think he could end up being a very solid NFL asset, but my confidence level in that isn't crazy high, so we're going to have to wait and see. Taylor, you're up, man.
You have, as they say, sniped me the last 3 picks in a row. Mason Taylor, Shedeur Sanders, and then Arroyo. Those are it's tough out here. We've
been hanging out a lot more, so maybe we're just.
I should have let you get Skattebo. 1 for 3 trade right now. Are you taking that? Mason Taylor, Arroyo, and Sanders for Skattebo?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to go with the running back position, and this might come as a surprise to some people, but I had Dylan Sampson ranked higher than all the other running backs left on the board before the draft process. I think they took Judkins very high, the Browns did, which is great, but we've seen them use a bit of a rotation and make sure they have a solid running back ready to go in the event that someone goes down. And I think having a high quality backup running back with his profile overall, Sampson, makes a lot of sense to make an investment in. And we'll see if he ever actually gets a real chance at things. Maybe it takes an injury for that to happen. But if he gets an opportunity, I believe he'd make the most of it with these guys that are left.
Love it. Love it. Tristan, who you got at 3-3?
It is a take your guy range, and I'm not going to take your guy. I'm going to take my guy, which is Harold Fannin Jr. So I liked Harold Fannin Jr. as my tight end 3 coming into the draft. So I was thrilled in an odd way that he didn't get drafted quite as high, because I think his value would have skyrocketed. I mean, obviously, there's a bigger risk now because he wasn't drafted super high, but I think as a receiving option, he's at least the third best tight end in this class. He's not the third best overall tight end in the class, so I get why he fell in the NFL draft. But I love the idea of Harold Fannin Jr. coming in, kind of learning a little bit behind Njoku. I don't think that they'll re-sign Njoku again. He's going to be a little older, and tight ends are expensive, and Harold Fannin is probably as good of a receiving option as Njoku is at this point. So I'm taking my guy there. Tight end premium, I think that it's a swing, for the high side. But as I said at the beginning of the draft, I'll wait on tight end, and then this is the range that I start just scooping up those guys, because I think it's the one position that draft capital can mean kind of nothing, both positive draft capital and negative draft capital. We've seen early guys just not. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to comment on something you said. The draft is funny. The NFL draft is funny that way, because on one hand, when you really like a guy and then the NFL validates that and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I told you guys, you idiots. But then on the flip side, you're like, dang it, now they're more expensive. And then the opposite is true as well. When the NFL doesn't take him as high, you're like, oh, man, maybe he's not that good. But now I get him a lot cheaper. So it is a weird mental game.
Yeah. I mean, you can use draft capital for or against you, whether it's good or bad in every argument. And so it means a lot and it doesn't mean a lot, right? We
Sure.
talk about the percentages of different rounds, and you can say, yeah, but there's a good chance they'll miss, or look at how likely they are to hit. You can kind of go all over the place. But for tight end specifically, we see a lot of guys come from the day 3 rounds and be elite tight end producers in the NFL. So I think it's the one position where we can rely that will happen. It's figuring out which one. And so that's where I like to just kind of take the shotgun approach late in drafts and scoop up a bunch of tight ends. And if I have a taxi squad, there's a good chance that it'll be filled with some tight ends, and hoping that the 1 or 2 will pop, and then you can trade them, because you don't need to be starting 5 tight ends every week.
All right, Taylor. Oh, actually, no, it's my pick. I forgot. I took Terrance Ferguson. I talked about taking him potentially with the last pick. He's still there. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, Taylor, you are up at 305.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Jaylin Noel at this point. I think he's probably dropped far enough in this draft. He might go a little bit earlier. We've taken a lot of tight ends and stuff, but people who need a wide receiver, I think he's pretty clearly the guy at the top of this tier. At least that's how I view him. He's the guy I would want out of this tier. After that, it's kind of, if he's there, great. Otherwise, I'm not that interested.
Love it. All right, Tristan, we're back to you.
There's a couple of players that I'm a little surprised that haven't been picked in our mock here, especially with the 2 of you. I thought they'd be off the board. But I'm sticking with the my guy approach, and I'm going to get Pat Bryant. I think he is one of those guys that is a kind of an anomaly compared to what we were just talking about. He had better draft capital than people expected, and he's going later in drafts than I think he should. And it's one of those, maybe it's the inverse of what we were saying, where people were saying, well, just because he was drafted early doesn't mean he's gonna succeed. I don't know. Like, I think that he has all of the opportunity ahead of him. He has a good offense. Bo Nix took a lot of took big steps forward. He's surprised me from what I expected. Like, this is again a swing for a big swing for the fences, but also with a relatively safe floor for as much as you can for a third-round draft pick.
I ended up going with Jarquez Hunter here. Really like in the mid to late rounds of the third round and then into the fourth round if we were doing that. I'm scooping up as many of these running backs as I can. Give me Devin Neal, give me Jarquez Hunter, give me DJ Giddens, give me Woody Marks, give me like all of these kind of guys, Kyle Monangai, Brashard Smith. Like, there's just so many good running backs in this range to take that I really do want to get my hands on a lot of these guys. So Jarquez Hunter is the one that I have just a tick higher than the others right now. So I'm going to go with him at 3.7. So Taylor, who do you got at 3.8?
Well, I have a running back as well. I'm interested to hear, if you don't mind, why would I have Jaydon Blue as my running back that I'm taking here at 3.08? What makes you lean towards Jarquez Hunter over Jaydon Blue?
Honestly, I forgot that him and Byayshul Tuten were there. So actually, I'm going to retroactively go back. I would take Tuten above both of those guys. Just how our list was laid out, I kind of passed over him and didn't mean to. But I would take Jaydon Blue and Byayshul Tuten over Jarquez Hunter. But it's very close between Blue and Jarquez for me. Jarquez, I love that. I love the fit in this offense. He's the right fit for this offense. They keep drafting the same type of player. But I think this is a little bit of an indictment on Blake Corum. And so if something were to happen, especially with Kyren Williams needing a contract soon, I think they could just end up sticking with Jarquez. But I ended up switching it. I am taking Byayshul Tuten. The early draft capital there. He was the first guy, if I'm not incorrect, or the second guy on day 3 there to go off the board. So
he was ahead of Cam Skattebo
by like 2 picks. Stop it. So I'll go with Byayshul Tuten actually. So apologize, I missed him. I want to make sure I get the best possible information there. So Taylor, you said you're going Jaydon Blue though?
Yeah, at 3.08, I'm going with Jaydon Blue. I think he's becoming a really hot name right now too. So he's probably going to go earlier than this in other people's drafts. There's going to be one guy out there who thinks he'll be the Cowboys running back 1 sooner than later. So I'll take him, but I wouldn't be surprised if in other drafts he's actually going ahead of guys like Dylan Sampson, who I took at 3.02.
Nice.
All right. Byayshul Tuten was the one that I was referring to when I took Pat Bryant. I was shocked that neither of you had taken him.
Yeah.
But which makes sense because he was high enough on our list that where we were at, he was not showing up probably if you had scrolled down just a little too far. So that makes sense. I was going to take him here because I would have been shocked that he was available, but I think for the purpose of providing the best analysis, he would have gone before so I'm fine with you taking your commissioner powers to change your own pick in this one instance.
Perfect.
But for me, I'm going to take my guy again, and I actually have him over both of the 2 running backs you guys took and Jarquez Hunter as well, and that is Trevor Etienne. I've been a big Trevor Etienne supporter for quite a while now. I remember talking to you during the end of I think it was the end of the college season or before the combine and the draft. I had him as my running back 7 at that point, and I remember texting you and Jared about it, and you guys were like, I don't know what's wrong with you, basically. I took him in our nerds league as the pre-NFL draft, rookie draft. I took him, I think, as the last pick we did in that at the end of the second round. Or just close to it. And I was thrilled that his draft capital was higher than Cam Skattebo. He was a day 2 guy. Granted, I think it was like 4 picks ahead of him, right?
Trevor Etienne was in the 4th round. He went after Skattebo.
Oh, you're right. No, I think he was like 10 picks behind him.
Stop trying to change the narrative.
Yeah, my bad. The receiver I took I took back-to-back picks, and I'll probably talk about him here in a moment. But But yeah, either way, to change the side of the conversation, you love Cam Skattebo. You took him at the beginning of the second round because he has a
I
chance
did not.
to
I
take
did
over.
not take him.
Oh, right. Taylor took him. Taylor, you would have taken him. I have no doubt.
I would have taken him at
Taylor
2-3,
took him at the
absolutely.
beginning of the second
Or 2-4.
round. And he has a chance to take over a backfield. He has some competition above him, but like not what we would say is great, like a insurmountable like depth chart. I think Trevor Etienne matches all of those same categories, and he was 9 or 10 picks behind Skattebo. He's going to Carolina. Like Hubbard is like a little more proven than Tyrone Tracy is in New York, but I wouldn't say if anybody said, they think Hubbard is an amazing running back, I think I would be a little surprised to hear that. So
I'll say this: I think Hubbard is a much bigger hill to climb than Tyrone Tracy, a guy that they took 5th round in the last year, who played well, but he had some fumbling issues and things like that, to a guy that they just gave a 3-year contract to. So I do think
Sure.
Hubbard is a much bigger hill.
I agree that he is a bigger hill. Maybe we differ a little on how big that hill is, but to me, Carolina just tried to get a starter at the running back position last year with Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks was taken more recently and higher than like Chuba Hubbard was. Which means they couldn't have been a huge believer in Chuba Hubbard as a long-term answer. Now they gave him a contract that helps his case, but they also drafted a running back, early day 3. I think that what is this, a round and a half discount on Skattebo to Etienne here? I love that value for a guy that wouldn't shock me if he's a big factor in this backfield by the end of the season.
All right, that's enough Trevor Etienne talk. 310, we get to Jarquez Hunter. I tried to take him a few picks earlier. I get to take him now, so it seems like a steal. I'm just gonna keep telling you guys fake guys that I'm taking, and then you won't know which real ones. It's basically the perfect strategy. So Taylor, that puts you back on the clock at 311. We've got our final 2 picks of the draft. Jarquez was my final one. Who's your final one?
So I'm between 2 running backs here, and I'm Devin Neal, I think, out there makes a lot of sense. He's got some potential in New Orleans, but because I have only a few seconds, I'd rather talk about Kyle Monangai. So I'm going to take Monangai here at 311. I think there's just a good shot that he finds himself on the field with some sort of a role. And in Ben Johnson's offense, we've seen the way that he can shuffle running backs around. If he finds someone who's doing good things on the field for him, they are likely to stay on the field for him. So we've seen guys like Isaiah Pacheco, Gus Edwards come out of Rutgers and have long careers by comparison for their draft capital, being able to be relevant in fantasy for more than one season. I think Monangai, if he's able to do that same thing as a 311 pick in the draft, that's a steal as far as actual dynasty value.
Absolutely. I love it. Last pick. Looks like you're going with good old Woody Marks there, Tristan.
I am, yeah. Another 4th round running back that I think is in a position to see a pretty high workload. If this were only a 3-round rookie draft, I would absolutely want to get the guys that I think, at the last pick, I would take the guy that I thought was going to be the number 1 waiver claim rather than my guy. I think that in this situation it aligned both because I like Woody Marks enough, especially as a pass catcher. Mixon has done that. He hasn't always stayed healthy. Nick Chubb has not been much of a pass catcher for his career. I like the Texans offense. So I think that he's got an opportunity to be come in and be a part of the offense, not necessarily going to be a fantasy contributor right away, but he could step into that role for, he's one of the guys chomping at the bit behind 2 players near the end of their careers, or at least the end of their regular role output kind of spot in their career. So Woody Marks is my guy here.
All right, Taylor, 2 guys that are still on the board that you would be strongly considering? I don't want any analysis. Just give me 2 names that you would be heavily looking at that are still available.
Devin Neal and Jalen Royals.
What about for you, Tristan?
Alec Aomanor, and that's a good question. Torrey Horton probably would be my other pick there.
And for me, it would probably be DJ Giddens. I'm going to say 3. 4. Brashard Smith, Xavier Restrepo, Dante Thornton, all guys that I would absolutely still be looking at. So thank you guys for tuning in to the mock draft. Hopefully this helps you as you prepare for your mid to late summer drafts that are still happening in many leagues. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.